The actions that you have put out in the past determine your success or failure in this life. But don't be bound by that karma, because you can overcome it. There are several ways to overcome karma. One is to increase your own energy. A karma is only an energy force, and if you put out enough energy to block it and pass over it, you can overcome even the most difficult periods in your life. My guru, you have to be born under some sort of auspice or other, and according to his horoscope, he was supposed to be married 3 times, being twice a widower. And he said, I will not follow that karma, and or that horoscope reading, whatever you might call it. And he burned his astrological reading that said this and left it outside his door, because his older brother Ananda used to scold him and say, you're going to be married, it's in your horoscope, and why become a yogi and why leave the world and all that. And his brother said, you'll not be able to overcome your karma as easily as you burn that piece of paper. But he never did marry. There was one time when a girl was brought to him, and they tried to really compromise him on this time. 2 other times they'd tried and failed. But this time they arranged a big feast, all the relatives came, big party, and then introduced the fact, he hadn't known this, but introduced him to his so-called bride. And he said, for a second, Satan got hold of my mind and showed me she was very attractive, beautiful. And then he used his spiritual eye to look under her flesh and see all the bones and blood vessels and everything else. And he laughed at this, and he said, no, I will not marry her. But I know I don't want you to be disappointed, and so I will see that my cousin marries her. And his cousin, of course, was thrilled to marry such a beautiful girl. When he went back to India in 1935, he found his cousin, Prabhash Ghosh, and his cousin was sort of tiptoeing around the house in fear of his wife's scoldings, and she was a terrible nag. And Yogananda took her aside one day and he said, listen, I have some right to say this because you were first promised to me. He said, if you had treated me the way I see you treating him, 1 week is all I'd have given it, and I'd have left for the Himalayas. People have asked the question then, well, but would that be right to leave your wife? Yes, anybody and anything, including your wife or husband, who poses a block, an obstacle to your spiritual search, should be left. One who wants to help you in your spiritual search should not be left. But this woman was nagging the life out of poor Prabhash Ghosh. Anyway, the karma can be partly overcome in that way. There are other ways you can do it. You know, your karma comes through your aura. And when there was a boy, Claude Pastori, his name was, he was 7 years old, I believe, from Egypt. And he lost his finger in an accident. I think it was his thumb. And Yogananda said, I saw a black cloud around you the day before. So when our karma is such that some catastrophe or disaster or hardship is coming upon us, our aura becomes weak or darkness gathers, and it's the cloud of karma coming and ready to attack you. You can offset that in certain ways. One is by keeping your consciousness high. That's why I said the other day that if you have the karma to lose a leg, if you love God, you will develop such a strong aura that you will still have that karma to pay, but you may only get a scratch on your leg instead of losing your leg. That's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, even a little bit of the practice of this religion will free you from dire fears and colossal sufferings. When you love God above all, and when your aura of devotion is strong, it protects you. There are other more automatic ways of protecting you. Certain herbs, I don't know the kinds of herbs, I'm not able to talk about that. But a bangle, like this one, which is made of gold, silver, and copper, was one that Yogananda and Sri Yukteswar recommended as everybody could have. And I do recommend that you get one of these. They help to create and strengthen your aura. They act like lightning rods. I've never had this experience myself, but some people have said that their arm around their bangle sometimes gets extremely hot, almost painfully hot. Sometimes they even remove them, which I think is a mistake. There's another thing, and that is that gems, either a particular gem which a good astrologer, a good Indian astrologer, can tell you about, not Western, because Indian is sidereal, Western is solar. And the sidereal horoscope tells you the strength of the planets in relation to you rather than in relation to the sun. But they will tell you if your Jupiter is weak, to wear a yellow sapphire. If your Mars is weak, wear a coral. If your Saturn is weak, wear a blue sapphire. If your Venus is weak, wear a diamond. All of these have to be 2 carats or more, and they have to touch the skin, and they have to be flawless. Apart from that, Mercury would be an emerald, and so on. I'm not going to go with the whole thing right now. But these two help to strengthen your aura and to protect you against the infliction of bad karmas. So there are many things you can do to overcome karma. One is to heed the advice of a wise saint who can tell you, do this or don't do that, because it will help you to walk around the pitfalls of your karma. I hope that helps, because it's a very important subject. And Yogananda decried those people who say, oh, my karma. Don't worry about your karma. I have the most difficult horoscope that I know of. I know there's an astrologer in Germany who, every time she heard my name, she'd say, oh, I don't know how we can live with that horoscope. Well, it has all the big planets in the fixed signs crossing one another, square to one another, opposite one another. It's a grand cross. And people feel that this is a very difficult thing. Well, frankly, I don't know what difficulties they're talking about. I've just cheerfully and courageously gone ahead, and whatever came my way, I've just not taken it on myself. I've just given it to God and done my best. You can, with courage and strength and faith, overcome anything. Don't worry about your karma. You know, if you have a field of ice, let's say it's a big lake, you couldn't break through that whole field no matter how hard you tried. But you can break through one little tiny point. Just send a screwdriver through it and you can break through it. So this little point is your ego. And if you can break through your ego, you can come into the water beneath you. The ice represents your karma. If you find God, no matter how bad your karma is, if you can find God in this life, you're free. You don't have to worry about all that karma. And once you're free, you can look back over all your lives and gradually free yourself from those things, but from a state of freedom from ego and oneness with God. So don't worry about your karma. Just worry whether you love God enough.